turns. It's kind of end block turning. It's not a quick turn. So that's one of the hallmarks of Parkinson's is rigidity and bradykinesia, slow movement. And he has that hallmark, especially with the low voice. It said was a.
Senators Tammy Baldwin of Wisconsin. Tammy's the one. And Amy Klobuchar and Tina Smith from the state of Minnesota. If I have all three of them on my side, I don't worry about anything. When I started the job, I kept talking about the need for deal with the environment. So we don't have a problem. Anybody think climate's not a problem? Raise your hand. Come on, man.
Well, this situation right here just got a lot thicker. And of course, not only did it just get a lot thicker, it also got a little bit more complicated. However, I want to say this, and I want to say this one more time, and I've said this a lot, especially since Joe Biden has been in office. Everything these people touch just turns to crap, number one. And number two, these people are notorious for screwing up their own screw-up. So when you get a news report like what you're about to see and what you guys obviously saw at the very beginning, you should not be surprised.
Fresh round of questions about his health. 11 days after his disastrous debate performance, CBS News has learned a Parkinson's specialist from Walter Reed National Military Medical Center has visited the White House at least 8 times over the last year. Tonight, the president's press secretary saying Biden is not being treated for Parkinson's. This is a critical week for the 81-year-old president, with dozens of world leaders in the nation's capital for a high-stakes summit, NATO summit. House Democrats will meet tomorrow and discuss Biden's future as the Democratic nominee. CBS's Ed O'Keefe is at the White House with new reporting.
That was only about 38 seconds total. We'll get back to the rest of it here in a second. So basically what's happened is this here. It has recently came out, and trust me, the leaks are going to get a lot worse, that the current administration, the current president, Joe Biden, has been seeing a Parkinson's disease specialist. And of course, we'll get to that here in a second, but many people have been wondering exactly what is it Joe Biden has. Is it dementia? Is it Alzheimer's? I mean, what exactly is ailing him? And of course, bringing in a Parkinson's disease specialist from Walter Reed would indicate that maybe it's possible that Parkinson's disease is a thing that he is suffering from. Now, if you have a family member who has Parkinson's disease, then obviously you know this is not a joke. It's obviously pretty serious. However, I think the American people are finally coming to the conclusion that maybe, just maybe, they don't like being lied to, even though they may want to a certain degree, kind of be like in an environment where they want to be left alone. But still at the same time, when you lie to them every day, every hour, every minute of every day for like 4 years, chances are there's probably going to be a backlash. In yesterday's video, or at least the second video of yesterday, and by the way, I plan on releasing 3 videos today, and the reason why I plan on releasing 3 videos today is obviously to catch up on things. Of course, we'll be going back to the normal schedule here soon. Come to find out, I'm not going to be needed to go back to the doctor's office for a couple more weeks, so therefore, I can kind of play around a little bit. But here's the thing. In that video there, I posted how it was that Karine Jean-Pierre was just basically just getting hit from all different sides from the White House press corps. However, I did not spend a lot of time focusing on the meat of what it was that the White House press corps was upset about. And instead, I chose to go the route that the White House press corps will, in fact, be glad when this administration is gone. The reason why is because Karine Jean-Pierre has a knack for lying and not telling the truth and being, quite frankly, pretty daggone evasive. However, once you start to put this stuff out there on the nightly news, and I'll explain why that's important, because I can already hear somebody saying, what do you mean the nightly news? I'm talking about CBS, I'm talking about ABC, I'm talking about NBC, Channel 7, Channel 10, Channel 13, Channel 12, whatever channel it is on your local broadcast, because obviously not everybody in the world watches cable news. Most people do, a lot of people do, but there are people who still live in the, how do I say, they still live with the loyalty to a brand, and that right there being a brand like, say, Columbia Broadcasting Station, which, of course, you guys are going to see some more of this news report as I'll play for you guys now, and I'll come back on the other end and explain why is this such a big deal.
Repeated questions about President Biden's medical history.
Has the president been treated for Parkinson's? No. Is he being treated for Parkinson's? No, he's not. Is he taking medication for Parkinson's? No.
But the press secretary refused to confirm that Dr. Kevin Kennard, an expert on Parkinson's disease, visited the White House 8 times from last summer to this past spring. Public White House visitor logs show Kennard also met at least once with the president's personal physician.
It is. You're asking me.
Kennard, come to the White House.
But just, Ed, I also said to you, Ed, I also said to you, for security reasons, we cannot share names. We cannot share names.
Those questions came as the president lashed out.
A growing coup in the Democratic Party as well. Now, Joe could say wherever he wants. Of course, he went on MSNBC. That was also covered in yesterday's second video, where he basically went on a bit of a rant. You could hear things shuffling. Of course, Joe Scarborough also shuffled his papers too, but you could also hear the shuffling through the phone, how it is that they're struggling to keep Joe on script. I basically said in that video there that I don't even think that was Joe Biden actually talking, or at least if it was him, it was probably pre-recorded and probably jump-cutted and edited to go along with the actual script that Joe Scarborough has in his hand to know exactly what questions to ask him and Mika Brzezinski. But that right there, of course, will remain to be seen. And it would not surprise me if that does not come out sometime before Election Day. That's exactly what it was that I said that it was. I know it sounds crazy, but still at the same time, basically what I'm saying is that more than likely, they pre-recorded the interview, or they probably pre-recorded the interview like the day after the debate or 2 days after the debate, because they got to catch the president, obviously, at times when he's available, which should scare the living hell out of everybody to know that your president is not there mentally, emotionally, physically. He just isn't there, okay? It's pretty daggone obvious. And world leaders see this type of crap, and they obviously respond to it. I'm going to invade tomorrow. That way, there's probably what somebody like Putin or Xi Jinping is thinking. I didn't realize Biden was this damn weak, even though their intel agencies probably suggested to them that they were weak, but oftentimes smart leaders don't wait till they actually see it themselves. Let's continue.
The best candidate to beat Donald Trump in 2024. We had a Democratic nominating process where the voters spoke clearly.
President Biden blasted the, quote, elites, who he says want him out.
If any of these guys don't think I should run against me, go ahead, announce for president. Challenge me at the convention.
Washington State Democrat Adam Smith was one of 4 top House Democrats who called for the president to step aside on a private conference call Sunday night.
We would be better off with another nominee, okay? I believe that in my heart, my soul, my brain. I'm 100% convinced of that.
In a letter to House Democrats, the president acknowledged the growing dissent and said it's time for it to end. First Lady Jill Biden, seen as the only confidant who could ever convince her husband to step aside, agreed.
Joe has made it clear that he's all in.
And of course, you guys obviously saw right there with that congressman that, of course, being on the House Arms Committee, being on the Intel Committee, being on any type of National Security Committee would obviously denote that this guy's got to go. That right there obviously meaning the current president of the United States, who quite frankly can't even stand on his own 2 feet. The interview was done with an Alzheimer's specialist, a Parkinson's disease specialist, which by the way has gone viral. People have been looking at it. It was roughly 6 minutes long. I'll link the full video in the description box. We'll be looking at about half of it here because I think the first half is the most important, but I'll still link the second half, the full thing in the description box for you guys. This one here came out, and obviously people were commenting on it, and I'll tell you exactly what's probably going to happen after all this occurs, and this is going to be my official prediction. No, I don't typically make official predictions, but I will. But there was one thing that I was discussing earlier that I want to discuss now before we get to that interview, and that is, of course, what I was mentioning earlier about people being loyal to certain brands. Now, check it out. Most people, most newsgoers have a certain type of news organization that they listen to. Okay, like me, for example, coming up from 2011 all the way to about 2017, my primary go-to was Fox News. I'm not going to lie to you guys about that. It was roughly sometime in 2017 that I branched out away from there and started listening to more commentary. By the way, the commentary I listened to, especially when it came to politics, was not just right-leaning politics. I also listened to left-leaning politics like TYT is just hilarious. They're just comedy, in my opinion. I don't take anything Jinx says seriously, and we'll be talking a little bit more about them in the third video of the day because there's a video on Chicago getting released at 12 o'clock. But, of course, the thing is this right here. You got to listen to other people's perspectives, and, of course, you also listen to MSNBC to see their kind of crazy stuff they say and CNN to see the crazy stuff that they say. I've also kind of gotten turned on to News Nation. It's pretty good. It's solid. It's okay, and I hope they actually pick up. Never really care for Newsmax. I think they're just grifting off of other viewers, especially Fox News' jilted viewers. The point is this right here. People have their own level of news to listen to, their own news organizations that they primarily go to. It's kind of like home team for some people. However, there are people, mostly people above a certain age, who don't watch cable news and still watch the local nightly news. That right there being CBS, ABC, NBC. It's probably one of the reasons why it is that the elderly population has not fully flipped to the Republican side as in predominant. There's a great big giant misconception about that. Most people think that people over the age of 65 just vote Republican. Not exactly the case, especially when you actually look at the overall demographics of the country. I'll probably do a video on that in a later date. I want to wait till we get close to the election or possibly after the election and do maybe a bit of a post-mortem to kind of explain that. But basically what I'm saying is that CBS, ABC, NBC, Fox, even to a certain degree, are still viewed at the local level. And of course, to go on top of this, your local news or local nightly news, and even the 30-minute segments that you get that's national news, yeah, this right here is still the same news source that most people go to, because most people still look at things not through the cable news lens, but they look at things more from the non-cable or maybe even analog, which is what you would call it now. Think back to the days before cable, and think back to the days of people when they did not have cable, yet cable existed. They would still get their news from people like, say, Tom Brokaw or Ted Koppel or Peter Jennings. That's basically what's still going on here. People are still obviously still loyal to those networks, so therefore they're going to continue to watch it. And once this type of story gets to them, even though most of their audience is elderly, yeah, they're going to feel like they got lied to, as you guys will see here. That lie, of course, is a president who apparently has been suffering from what could be Parkinson's disease this whole time, or possibly other illnesses. But let's go ahead and get to it.
Sure. Oh, yeah, I see him 20 times a day in clinic. I mean, it's ironic because he has just such classic features of neurodegeneration. I mean, word finding difficulties, and that's not, oh, I couldn't find the word. That's from degeneration of the word retrieval area.
He's also overcome stuttering, though. Could that be part of that, too?
No, this is not a palatal issue or a speech discrepancy, which is very different from a lemmonode dysfunction, actual word retrieval, where you pick a similar question or talk around the issue, plus the rigidity, monotone voice.
Wait, go back to that, the rigidity. What do you mean?
Rigidity, loss of arm swing, standing up lordically. You notice when he turns, it's kind of end block turning. It's not a quick turn. So that's one of the hallmarks of Parkinsonism is rigidity and bradykinesia, slow movement. And he has that hallmark, especially with the low voice. He said was a...
The rigidity, we've obviously seen this with Biden's movements. Obviously, you guys can see some of that in the background while you guys were listening to him, if you guys were actually looking at the screen. But the thing is, guys, right here, I also played at the very beginning two certain segments that I found online where Joe will just suddenly just start talking, and all of a sudden his voice will just get really, really low because he's known to do that. I used to say to myself that that's kind of an act, but now I'm kind of like, maybe it's an act that might have came true. Very, very weird, but you guys can obviously see Biden has this tendency to try to whisper and talk in a much, much lower voice. It's always made me wonder why he does that. It's not really that effective of a tactic. I mean, unless maybe you're somebody who just believes everything that you're told, but most normal people typically don't respond well to that. They probably just think it's kind of odd, kind of weird, you know. It's possible it's something that, quite frankly, could have been masked, but you're getting a Parkinson's disease specialist who's apparently been there 8 times, and according to him, he's seen him on multiple occasions, and he's seen multiple patients who's basically telling you at this moment in time, yeah, Joe is pretty daggone jacked up, but let's continue.
Hold hypophonia, a small monotone voice like this over time is a hallmark of Parkinsonism. I could have diagnosed him from across the mall.
Here are some of the symptoms from Parkinson's. We just had him up there on the screen, if we can put him back. What about the movement? Some people have pointed out the way he walks. Sometimes it's not very fast, small steps. Is that something that is common in people who are battling a disease like Parkinson's?
Yeah, it's a hallmark. Shuffling gait, we call that, so little steps. Loss of arm swing from the rigidity. When we walk, we have a nice cadence. You notice he doesn't really swing his arms. And end block turning, meaning he kind of pivots around his foot. If you said, hey, President Biden, he wouldn't go like this. So, yeah.
But I also know, and tell me if I'm wrong here, it's very hard to diagnose Parkinson's, isn't it? It's not simple. I mean, I've heard that it can be.
It's one of the easier movement disorders to diagnose, actually.
One of the easiest movement disorders to diagnose. Wow. There was also this little bit that went viral at the summit where he spoke to leaders from NATO. I mean, where he apparently said this here.
He's a man of integrity and intellectual rigor, a calm temperament.
I can only hope and pray that YouTube's algorithmic moderators don't hit this video with a strike, but I'm going to leave it in there anyways. Because obviously people need to see exactly how screwed up it's going. I mean, the guy did recently claim that he was a black woman. I mean, so I guess at this point in time, we should not be surprised. By the way, this doctor does say during the interview that he is a Democrat, and you guys are about to hear that he was actually upset that the party, I think it's in this bit here, that the party itself, he's actually upset that the party would do this. This, by the way, is going to lead to a jilted factor, which I'll explain a little bit later on this video, but let's continue.
I mean, there's very little other, and I'm a Democrat, I always say about this.
Right.
It's just like, this guy is not a hard case.
But I've had relatives who have gone through neurological issues, and I've heard that sometimes Parkinson's is not very easy to nail. You have to take a lot of tests.
It's early on. If you're just presented with like hallucinations, that could be a variety of things, or just the cognitive problems. That could be Alzheimer's versus Parkinsonism, and that becomes a little nebulous. But once you start manifesting the hallmark motor symptoms,
right?
Slow movement, rigidity, mass facies, hypophonia. I mean, if a med student did not pick Parkinson's on the test, they'd be remediated.
Let me ask.
He's basically telling every medical student right there, if you didn't pick Parkinson's with these types of symptoms, or if you didn't at least think Parkinson's, you probably should not be in the field. But hey.
You're a doctor. You sound like you're frustrated with what the White House is saying.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, because, I'm an American before everything. And I look at it and say, when I used to see Russia, Soviet Union, North Korea, when they just make outrageous things, like when North Korea can't keep the lights on and they say, it was some faulty power thing. I kind of hate that kind of stuff. They had 4 years. My own party had 4 years to find, this was a wreck in slow motion. And they had 4 years to find, out of 350 Americans, one person that could take the place. And here we are the day before school trying to do the homework and replace a guy who's got a neurodegenerative disease.
So you guys obviously heard that. So let me go ahead and tell you what's probably going to happen as a result of this. And I'll even make a prediction. So I'm going to tell you what's going to happen in this edited clip, and then I'm going to make the prediction in the final clip. What's going to happen is that a lot of voters, especially those who voted for Joe, and by the way, Joe was already losing voters that voted for him in 2020 that are what we call the anti-COVID, or at least that's what I call them. Mr. Reagan made a pretty good video about this that I'll try to link in the description box for you guys that kind of explains that maybe Joe inadvertently during that debate may have actually saved the country, because he kind of shows people exactly how messed up he really and truly is. And you're probably thinking to yourself, how the hell did he save the country if he's looking at getting reelected? Don't worry, I'll explain that more in the prediction part, because, well, I don't see a way this guy gets reelected. I just don't see it. However, at the same time, though, there's only one way he does get reelected, and that's if you guys stay home. You need to get out there and actually physically vote. You need to get there and actually physically vote for the Republican nominee to get him out of there. And we'll probably talk about the Republican platform a little bit later on this week going to the RNC, because there's a lot of buzz and a lot of discussion that's being kicked around about that. But here's the thing. A lot of voters, and they're not really Democrat voters, because Democrat voters are going to vote for Joe Biden regardless, okay? They're going to vote for the Democrat nominee. But here's the point, though. You need people outside your party to vote for you to get elected. And a lot of people are looking at this and they're saying, no, and then now the fact that they feel like the media has lied to them just kind of confirms what they already said. You're probably going to see a massive drop-off in overall independent votes. Now, will they all go to Donald Trump? Probably not, but a lot of them will probably go to RFK, and they'll probably go to the third parties like Cornel West and Jill Stein, and even the Libertarian candidate. But still, though, these are independents that Joe would need. And more than likely, like all elections involving incumbent presidents or incumbent parties, it always turns out to be, it's what the base does, meaning that the bigger base always wins. Well, Trump's base is definitely more motivated to vote for him, whereas Biden's base, which really is kind of non-existent, or the additional voters that Biden would need to get over, they're not exactly too enthused about him, and I think that the mainstream media lying about this is probably going to keep a lot of these people home or looking for other options outside of Biden, which of course is going to benefit Trump. But that then brings me to my official prediction, and that prediction is this here. I predict that Joe Biden will still remain the Democratic Party nominee, and here's the reason why. If you try to replace him at the convention, or if you try to replace him before the convention, what's going to happen is that you're going to have a revolt. 90% of these delegates are pledged to Biden. Now, of the 90% that are pledged to Biden, half of them are not going to leave him. Now, I know what you're thinking, the superdelegates. Well, the superdelegate question will be answered a lot more directly in the video the third video I have today, because obviously you're going to have we got to talk about Gent Unger and TYT at AOC. But the point is this right here. A lot of the superdelegates actually are in the federal government right now. A lot of them are in the Congress. A lot of them are in the Senate. They're not going to want their reelection chances jeopardized, even though a lot of them kind of already are. So you probably think, okay, well, they just go ahead and go for it anyways. No. Reelection chances, I'm talking about 2026, 2028, because let's just say Biden loses the election, but yet he still has some influence. And let's just say some people who are loyal to Biden say, screw this, we're just not going to vote for you in 2026 or 2028 to ensure that you have a Senate seat. That's the type of crap you're looking at. So I think what's going to happen is you're going to have a bit of a split vote. The first round of voting, the delegates will choose Biden. The second round of voting, the superdelegates may choose not to choose Biden. They may choose Harris, and of course people are going to revolt. Or they may try to bypass and go with Gavin Newsom, which is not going to work either, because then you'll be sidestepping Kamala Harris. Now, I personally believe that the Democratic National Convention this year in Chicago will be chaos. It will echo 1968. But still, at the same time, though, this is the type of chaos that you're going to receive. So I think at the end of the day, Joe being stubborn and Jill Biden's influence, and with all the attempts that they may make to try to remove Biden, will end up being unsuccessful. And they'll just look more and more chaotic as a party. And it will be glorious to see. And that right there is my official prediction. Tell me what you guys think in the comment section. I want to hear what you guys have got to say. Please hit the like button. Please subscribe. Please share the video. Please sign off in the comment section. This is a day where there's going to be 3 videos out. Tomorrow is going to be a day where it's going to have 2 videos out. I have no idea what I'm going to do the weekend, but apparently I don't have to go to the doctor's office this weekend because I thought I was going to be getting the suture removed this week, but apparently it's like 2 more weeks. So I'm going to be around for a little while longer, but still, please hit the like button, subscribe, share the video, sign off in the comment section, and I'll see you guys later.